On the news, Labour Union begins nationwide strike amid stalemate in negotiation for new minimum wage. Businesses, airports, hospitals, power supply affected as Labour begins nationwide strike. And federal government in closed-door meeting with Labour over nationwide strike. Hello and welcome to News Now on TV360 Nigeria. I'm Tamilore Akinkwole. Nigeria has been thrown into a nationwide blackout as labor unions in the country begin an indefinite national strike to demand a new national minimum wage. Talks between the federal government and the unions have been deadlocked as a last-minute effort by the National Assembly leadership to prevent the strike from going ahead failed. The unions are demanding 494,000 naira as the new minimum wage, but both the government and the private sector say they can only pay 60,000 naira as figure the union has vehemently rejected. The unions also want the government to reverse the recent hike in electricity tariff. Now, this next report has a background to the events leading to the strike. The unions say their decision to embark on the strike was driven by frustration over the federal government's refusal to accede to their demand for a higher minimum wage and the reversal of the recent electricity tariff hikes. The unions argue that the current economic conditions, including rising inflation and cost of living, necessitate a significant wage increase to alleviate the financial burden on workers.
We are hereby declaring the commencement of a nationwide industrial action, a nationwide strike, effective from Monday, June 3rd, 2024. And this strike shall be indefinite. And this strike shall be on until we have a new national minimum wage.
What we should be praying for the people who are suffering so much, and those are some of our people. That was why we were reluctant. That was why we were virtually, telling them, let's find a solution.
Now, there have been several negotiations to strike an agreement over the issue, but all of them failed. The National Assembly leadership made a last-minute intervention when it called an emergency meeting with labor union leaders in the bid to prevent the industrial action, but that too did not yield a positive result. Both the federal government and the labor unions remained steadfast in their positions, unable to find a common ground on the key issue.
In the last 4 hours, we have been making appeal, and we are still appealing to the leadership of the NLC and the TUC to quickly return to the negotiating table with the government.
The NLC and TUC will go and consult with their people with the view to suspending their strike action as soon as possible to allow for negotiation to continue.
Amid the ongoing impasse, the International Labour Organization ILO has called for a constructive dialogue.
There is no doubt in anybody's mind that the current minimum wage is not sufficient, especially considering the economic hardship that the workers in Nigeria are experiencing. So this is indeed the step in the right direction, and I'm aware that dialogue and conversations are happening in that committee, and we can only wish and hope that there will be enough factual information that will inform what then becomes a new minimum wage. As the International Labour Organization, we've also had several conversations, and we stand ready to support in whatever technical capacity that is required to make sure that this dialogue that is currently happening is fruitful and we are able to agree on a new minimum wage.
The nationwide strike has already begun to disrupt various sectors, with electricity, petroleum and aviation being significantly affected. The Nigerian Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers, NUPENG, and the National Union of Electricity Employees are also participating in the strike. Already, the striking workers have shut down the national grid. If the strike continues, severe fuel shortages will be inevitable in the coming days. Tamilore Akinkwole, TV360, Lagos. Labour unions in Nigeria have commenced a nationwide strike following the inability of the tripartite committee set up by the government to agree on a new minimum wage for the country and reverse the hike in electricity tariff. The Labour union decided to embark on the strike following the expiration of a deadline they gave the government to conclude all negotiations for a new minimum wage before the end of May. Our correspondent Emeka Marco files in this report on the situation of the strike in Abuja.
It's the first day of the indefinite strike embarked upon by the organized labor, and the impact is visible in Abuja, the federal capital. As early as 7 a.m., a combined team of union members were seen in batches at various locations enforcing the strike action. The Popular Federal Secretariat, Federal Ministries of Foreign Affairs, Health and Social Development, Federal Capital Development Authority, financial institutions and other places visited were conspicuously under lock and keys. Businesses and critical services across the country, including schools, hospitals and power supply, aren't spared either as workers complied with the strike action. Even the National Assembly, whose leadership played the arbiter in the badge negotiation yesterday, was also under lock and key.
This strike is total. This is just day one. And for us to have reasonably this compliance level is total. You can't tell tomorrow how it will look like. It's not our prayer or in our own decision or wish that government should not come to terms with labor. But when that happens, I assure you, tomorrow will be total. Total than this. The decision of labor is indefinite until their request is met.
The federal government as a time has not been able to shift grants. So they should offer us something reasonable that will make Nigerian workers to smile home. You are aware of current situation of things in the country. If you go to market now, what is happening in market is not friendly. And before you add other things that makes you to live as a human being, until when federal government are able to shift grants. When they shift grants and meet up to our demand, we are good to go.
The labor unions called the strike action after negotiation with government and private sector broke down as the union rejected 60,000 naira minimum wage put forward by the government private sector employees.
We love Nigerians. We want to come back to the office, but we want to come back well. We want to be happy that if we come back to the office, we'll go back and meet our loved ones. But right now, it is not possible. With what we are earning, it is not possible. We can't even use this money for 1 week. Go to all the loans in Abuja, all the people that give loans. Civil servants are the highest people taking loans. Why? So it is not too pleasant. Government should at least. We know that Tinubu is a nice person. We believe that when he came in as the president, he has worked with workers before. He will know the best way to treat us. But this is not what we bargained for.
Our leaders, are they feeding their dogs with 57,000 in a month? But Nigerian workers who will work every day for 30 days, they are the ones you will count 57,000 to give. No, you don't push the people to the wall and expect them not to react. We are not happy that we have to go on strike, but then when we are pushed to the wall, we have to react. Government is giving us with left hand and taking with right hand. Do you know how much government has taken from you in the last 1 year? Subsidy is gone. Electricity, this is happening. Then why is it so difficult to give the Nigerian worker a living wage?
Some residents of the city say they are in support of the action. It is not certain yet when negotiations will resume for now. The unions are sticking to their guns, insisting they want nothing short the 494,000 naira they are demanding.
Meanwhile, the Lagos State chapter of the Nigeria Labour Congress NLC has instructed all workers in the state to stay off work and support the union's ongoing strike. This directive comes as a response to the prevailing socio-economic challenges and the federal government's refusal to increase the minimum wage. Addressing the press, Funmi Sesi, chairman of the NLC Lagos State chapter, lamented the current economic hardship faced by ordinary workers. She criticized the stagnant minimum wage, highlighting that the cost of living has rendered basic necessities unaffordable for many. Sesi urged all workers to unite in solidarity by abstaining from work until the federal government agrees to a minimum wage in the 3-digit range.
This is the time all of us must join voices together. Labour, NLC, TUC now, we are already awake. to the responsibility. If you don't want to suffer and your children also continue the suffering, please let us with one voice and with the same action go home now. If we don't go home now, 60,000 the government is proposing is just $42. If you go to any embassy now, you want to travel, you want to go for conference, they will deny you visa. When they ask you how much is your salary and you mention 60,000, they will ask you how much is that in dollars. And when you tell them in dollars, Nigeria will say we are the giant of Africa. Is it the same thing? When we agree with government on 30,000, then 30,000 was $147. Today, the same 30,000 naira is $20. We can no longer continue to sustain that with our life with that 30,000 naira. The proposed money that is $42 is not, it will never be commensurate with the socio-economic reality on ground now. Yes. Nigerian people, Nigerian workers, please don't stress us beyond the limit. Go home now. Go home now. Listen to us until you hear that NSC and TUC come to your television again to announce that yes, government has given us a 3-digit. If they propose 99,900, we will not collect it. Anything less than 3 digits from 100,000 and above as minimum, for even the person that is sweeping on the road, we will not collect it.
And the country has been thrown into a fresh round of blackouts over the shutdown of the national grid by the aggrieved members of the labor unions. The national grid system dropped to 0 megawatts on Monday as a result of the complete disruption of power supply to all 11 electricity distribution companies in the country. A Monday statement from Transmission Company of Nigeria's General Manager, Public Affairs, Ndidi Mba, said the nationwide blackout was due to staff of the TCN under the aegis of the National Union of Electricity Workers completely shutting down all power substations across the country at approximately 2:19 a.m. on Monday, causing the national grid system to drop to 0 megawatts. On the power generating side, she explained that some power generating units from different generating stations were forced to shut down. Meanwhile, a civil society organization, the Center for Social and Economic Rights, has condemned the shutting down of the national grid and the plunging of the whole nation into darkness by the organized labor in the prosecution of its declared nationwide strike action. It described the action as an act of economic sabotage and treason, which must be met with full weight of the law. The executive director of the group, Nelson Ekujimi, said they are shocked and devastated by the reported criminal act and economic sabotage being unleashed on helpless Nigerians and Nigeria by the organized labor over its dispute with the government on the issue of minimum wage. The group equally urged the Nigerian government to ensure that any assault of rights of Nigerians and Nigeria by those who have taken laws into their hand under the pretext of prosecuting a strike action as a result of wage dispute is met with the full weight of the law. Now, earlier on, I spoke with the Director General of the Immaculate Initiative for Peace, Bankole Dada, and I began by asking him his take on the ongoing strike and his take on the proposal of 494,000 naira for the new minimum wage.
On the issue of NSC or grant presently, I don't have impressive action and responses from them. We are just following the same attitude. Because labor, when we were young as youth, we discover they have a purpose. Money always exchange hand, which is the primary objective of that movement. And ever since, that policy has never changed. And now, couple of what they are arguing on now, that the federal government should pay 615,000, I think is unrealistic. It's very, very unrealistic with this present problem we are facing in this country. And I heard this afternoon that they have increased it to 100%, which is normal. Still, they still end at deadlock. So I don't see any righteousness in the existence of NUC, TUC, and whatever body or NOGI that is existing in Nigeria today. All is on trading.
The Director General of MANA said the private sector has agreed with the federal government on 60,000 naira proposal. Do you think the Labour is just being inconsiderate with their request?
Very, very inconsiderate. When you look at the situation of things in the country, the attitude of the Labour body is very political. It's too political. Come back to the situation of things in Nigeria as of today. It's political. You can't just come with a magic that you want federal government to pay certain amounts in which you yourself have not partaken in any governance policy of this country. What is your struggle going to put food on the table for Nigerians? Nothing. Nothing. You can't put any food on the table for Nigerians if you don't have any policy and you are not loaded with ideas to help the federal government to do things. Then you can't just be forcing them to pay certain amounts until if you are having your own intake of ideas that you want to generate for the federal government to join hand with them. This is not an issue of NLC fighting against Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire, or NLC fighting against Ghana. It's NLC fighting against their people. The majority of the grassroots. I mean, what is the population of the working class in Nigeria under government? Let me have that number. The working class in Nigeria's population today is less than 20% by my calculation. And when you look at it, where do you want all those people who are doing their own personal businesses, where do you want them to generate money to pay their staff when you are thinking of your own staff? So this thing is personal. I don't see any sense in it.
How do you assess the federal government's handling? How do you think the federal government has handled the situation so far with the Labour's union demands?
Thank you very much. I like that question. You see the situation in this country. I think the federal government, if I can meet the federal government or the president one-on-one to organize a robot body of NLC, TUC, NOGE, on the radio station, each time they come on the system to be seeing all these things they are doing, they have a check and balance. It's because NLC doesn't have check and balance. That is why they are so robust, getting robust in their characters, nonchalant attitude. So what I want federal government to do is to make sure they invite them on the round table, create a ministry. Let Ajaero and his whole set of NLC be invited to come and hold a ministry, control a ministry, give them portfolio to control a ministry, to see if they are loaded at all, if they even have a single ideas.
And that was the Director General of the Immaculate Initiative for Peace, Bankole Dada, speaking on the demand of the Labour Union for a new minimum wage. Let's now go to the situation report of how the strike was in Lagos. Here is our correspondent, Igni Okafor, with the story.
In Lagos, the union members blocked the entrance to the domestic terminals of the Murtala Mohammed Airport, leaving passengers stranded as normal flight operation was disrupted.
60,000 naira, we want the government to explain to us how they get to 60,000. What can 60,000 do to an average employee at this moment? What can 60,000 do?
Minimum wage is a law. It's an act, and it should be a product of negotiation. But what is happening here now? They have broken down the negotiation process. Whatever they might be doing now, they are just deceiving themselves.
Some of the passengers asked both parties to strike a compromise and resolve the issue.
The Nigerian economy cannot take up such a minimum wage. But I believe the government ought to come up a little bit too. You get? They can't be asking for 640-something thousand in this economy of Nigeria. It's not visible anywhere. Let's just be frank to ourselves. It's not visible. Because it's not everybody that's government workers. What about we private people, individuals? What will we do? Are we going to start paying our staff that amount of money? Do we have such in this economy to pay our staffs? So it's not done anywhere.
You have a government that is not willing to listen to the people, right? That does not want to consider the issues on the ground on its own merits, then they are left with no option than to take on this action, though it's detrimental to the economy. Nigeria, one way or the other, has lost money, billions of naira for today.
Even the Lagos State Secretariat was not spared from the strike action as workers stayed away from work. Public schools too were closed as well as some financial institutions.
The people are losing confidence in the union because over time we've seen them, we feel that they easily change, they are easily win over by the government and the people don't really get what they deserve. But this time around, if this only singular action can actually change the government to dance to people's tune, I think it's well called for.
The Labour are not effective in the sense that they should have come out earlier than this before the food stop and everything begin to rise up. And we see in the area of governments are not, even this government is not effective in their thinking and their calculation.
The union have said they will intensify their action in the coming days if the government does not accede to their demand. Sydney Okafor, TV360, Lagos.
As a nationwide strike by the organized labor over a new minimum wage for workers paralyzes economic activities in Nigeria, the federal government has invited labor leaders to a meeting in Abuja, the country's political capital. The meeting, which is being held in closed doors, as the president of Nigeria Labour Congress, Joe Ajaero, and his counterparts in the Trade Union Congress, TUC, Festus Osifo, in attendance. On the government side is the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, Minister of Information, Mohammed Idris, Labour Minister Nkiruka Onyejiocha, among others. We will now go on a break, but still to come, NDIC begins liquidation process for Heritage Bank following license revocation. Details of this story after this break. Welcome back. Here's a recap of our top stories. Nigeria is experiencing a nationwide blackout as labor union commence an indefinite strike demanding a new minimum wage of 494,000. Now, despite last-minute effort by the National Assembly to mediate talks between the unions and the federal government, it has failed. The government and the private sector have offered a maximum of 60,000 naira, which the unions have firmly rejected. We also told you that as a nationwide strike led by the organized labor paralyzes economic activities across the country, the federal government has called for a meeting with labor leaders in Abuja. The closed-door meeting includes key figures such as Joe Ajaero, president of the NLC, and Festus Osifo, president of the Trade Union Congress. Representing the government, George Akume, secretary to the government of the Federation, Mohammed Idris Malagi, Minister of Information, and Nkiruka Onyejiocha, Labor Minister, among others. This meeting aims to address the deadlock over the proposed new minimum wage and seek a resolution to end the ongoing strike. Now, in case you missed any of the news bulletin or for more updates, you can catch us on Lime's World TV and AVO TV, or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store, Huawei App Gallery, and Apple Store. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. It's now time for business news. Let's join Opeyemi Owosheni for the latest in the world of business. Over to you, Opeyemi.
Thank you, Temilore. Welcome to Business News. Following the revocation of the banking license of Heritage Bank PLC by the Central Bank of Nigeria and the appointment of the Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation as a liquidator, the corporation said it had begun the process for winding up. The move, according to the NDIC, is pursuant to Section 12, Subsection 2 of BOFIA 2020 and in accordance with Section 55, Subsection 1 and 2 of the NDIC Act of 2023. This was disclosed in a statement signed by Director Communication and Public Affairs Bashir Nuhu, which says that the corporation has commenced liquidation process of the failed bank with immediate verification and payment of insured deposits to the bank depositors. The NDIC explained that debtors that are yet to complete the repayment of loans are advised to contact the corporation's Asset Management Department. We'll go on a short break and be back with stock market reports. Welcome back. Nigeria's equities market ended the first weekday of trading on a negative note, reducing slightly by 0.18%, with the market capitalization at 55.08 trillion naira. That's despite the wins recorded last week. Now, on the losing side, eTransact International came out last with an end of the price appreciation, closing at 5 naira 05 kobo per share, followed closely by Unity Bank, which closed at 1 naira 38 kobo per share. Now, at the end of the first weekday of trading on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, a total of 349 million volumes of shares were exchanged in 8,008 deals, corresponding to a market value of over 5 billion naira. Now, compared to the previous NGX trading day, we see about 5% decline in deals. Now, onto our foreign stocks, reverses is the same case as well for our foreign stocks, as the UK FTSE and US Dow Jones maintained a bearish trade, with the UK FTSE at 0.10% and the US Dow Jones at 0.65%. Reverses the case, however, for Japan's Nikkei, as it maintained a northward position and ended in the bulls at 0.13%. Now let's take a quick look at our foreign exchange market. Well, the US dollar traded at 1,483 naira 48 kobo on the official market and at 1,510 naira on the black market, while the Great British Pound traded at 1,877 naira 92 kobo on the official market and at 1,920 naira on the black market. The euro traded at 1,613 naira 44 kobo on the official market and at 1,610 naira on the black market. That's it on both business and stock market report. Back to you, Tamilore, for the rest of the news.
Thank you for that update, Opeyemi. Now on the foreign scene, at least 56 died in India and nearly 25,000 others suffered with suspected heat stroke after several heatwave days across the country from March to May, local media reported, citing government data. The month of May was particularly bad for the region, with temperatures in the capital, Delhi, and nearby state of Rajasthan touching 50 degrees Celsius. Now, India has been experiencing a hot summer. A part of the country have touched new highs in terms of maximum temperatures. And on sport, the strike action embarked upon by the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress is affecting every facet of the country, including the Super Eagles' preparation for the crucial World Cup qualifying matches against South Africa and Benin Republic. Unfortunately, 8 Super Eagles players have been caught in the web as they are unable to join the rest of their colleagues who have already kick-start preparations for the crucial World Cup qualifying games against Bafana and Benin Republic Squirrels. The 8 players affected include Aduka Okoye, Semi Ajayi, Bright Osai, Samuel, Kelvin Bassi, Frank Onyeka, Alex Iwobi, Ademola Lukman, and Paul Onauchu. According to Super Eagles media officer, they are in the country but unable to arrive in camp because of the ongoing Nigeria Labour Congress strike, which has stalled domestic flights. And that wraps up our bulletin on News Now. Many thanks for watching. I'm Tamilore Akinkwulie. See you again next time.